In this episode, I speak with Anjie Cho, architect and Feng Shui educator. We talk about the upcoming Rat Metal year and Chinese New Year, how each of the 12 signs can adjust according to this year, some tips and tricks, and flower essences recommended for each sign, as well as some beautiful Chinese New Year rituals.
Welcome to the Flower Lounge, a place for conversations with wildly creative people and a little plant-loving wisdom to help you experience life in full bloom. I'm Katie Hess, flower alchemist and founder of LOTUSWEI, and I believe in a world where we're all living at our personal edge.
This week I speak with Anjie Cho. She is an architect in New York. She's also a Feng Shui educator and author of Holistic Spaces, 108 Ways to Create a Mindful and Peaceful Home. She's also co-founder of the Mindful Design Feng Shui School and founder of the Holistic Spaces blog, podcast, and online store. Anjie is a meditator. She is a flower arranger. We've known each other for a few years, and I think you'll really appreciate this episode about Chinese New Year and preparing for not only the change in the year, but also exploring your year's sign and how you can make this year work best for you. All right. I'm super excited to have you here, Anjie.
Me too. I'm so excited. I love talking about the Chinese zodiac and the animals, so it'll be really fun.
So I have a couple of questions for you before we get into the nitty-gritty.
Mm-hmm.
One is just like a quick sort of, what's the intersection of Chinese astrology and Feng Shui?
So that's a really great question because I think maybe some people have a difficulty making the connection. So there's actually something in Asian philosophy and Feng Shui philosophy called, I forgot what it's called. But anyways, there's different parts of your life and different aspects of your lifestyle that all affect you. And so astrology covers your destiny. And the idea is it tells you your potential. And within that potential, there's other aspects that affect how your life unfolds. There's luck, there's education, like what you put into your life. Like, do you make an effort to improve yourself? My teachers like to say, you may be born a Mercedes or a Chevy, but either way, you could be the best Mercedes you can be. So that's where education comes in, and also Feng Shui. So Feng Shui is very important because it needs to work hand in hand with your astrology to improve your environment so you can begin to become the best that you can within what is your destiny. And then my teachers always say there's other, because there's always an other, something that doesn't fit into the mold. So the other is the other aspect. But that's how it works spiritually and energetically, like how astrology and Feng Shui work together. But also the philosophies really go hand in hand. In fact, you can overlay the compass of the Chinese zodiac on top of the Bagua, and they're actually the animals correspond and the energies correspond, as well as 5 elements are the same 5 elements that are used in Chinese medicine, in Feng Shui, in astrology that relate to Taoism. So it's all interrelated and interdependent and connected.
Isn't that fabulous?
Yes, I love it, until I started learning Tibetan Buddhism and they threw in the 5 Buddha families.
Right.
Yes.
One they have wood and one they have space.
Yes.
Yeah, then it gets a little confusing.
Wood is kind of like wind. But actually in the I Ching, wood is wind.
Oh, so there are ties then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so my teacher always says, he's like, it all boils down to the time of day you were born. So like if he's kind of checking people out, he's always asking what time of day they were born. And he would say, like, if I'm a snake, like you can be a garter snake or you can be a cobra. If you're a horse, you might be like a really hardworking horse, or you can be a really lazy horse, like depending on the time you're born. And I remember looking up like all the super duper detailed specifics. I think you sent me to Joey Yap's website with his little calculator. That is fascinating.
Yes.
And I think so, like, I think maybe if people aren't familiar with Chinese astrology, we love going to the Chinese restaurants where they have like the place, the old, like, what are they, like table placements where you can see like a little snippet about your sign, but it's just as or much more complicated even than Western astrology, right? Because it's based on where you were born, the time you were born in. all the different elements of things that were happening at the time.
Yes, there's more combinations, but it's very similar because actually there's 12 zodiac animals or 12 different energies, but there's also 12 as well in Western astrology. So it's very similar because in the 4 pillars, which is the system of astrology in Asia, there's actually an animal or an energy. So the animals are just metaphors for energy or designations for energies, right? The energy came first, the animal designation came later to make it easier for humans to digest. But there's an animal pillar for a zodiac pillar for your hour. So that is actually your inner emotions because it's the most specific, right? It's the hour you're born. And then there's a day animal, a day pillar, and there's an hour pillar, or sorry, I already said hour, day, month, and year. So the year kind of represents the energy around you and your friends and what's influencing you. And then the month is like your partnerships. And then your day master, what we call it, your day pillar is who you are. And then the hour is your inner emotion. So there are many facets, but it's certainly okay just to talk about your year animal because, for instance, just like with Western astrology, if people have been following your podcast, they hear about Western astrology. Western astrology also has like, you have your sun sign, your moon sign, your ascendant. There's all these different layers that they're like concentric circles that are what's closest to you affects you the most. So similar in Feng Shui, like your bedroom and your bed affects you the most, more than like, your whole home because it's closest to you.
I love that. So when you talk to your clients, do you bring those elements in? Like if someone says, oh, Anjie, can you help me do or figure out the Feng Shui for this space? You would take all of those things into account?
Usually, yes, especially if someone's having a challenging year. I remember when I first started studying Feng Shui, my teacher came over to my home and did a consultation, and my husband was present, and he's a monkey, and it was a tiger year. And if you know anything about Chinese astrology, it's a clash. And so she said, oh, you're having a really difficult year, and gave him some feedback on that and ways to work with it. And then after she left, he was so relieved. It was such a blessing to hear that it was a challenging year because he had been having a challenging year and he had been given some techniques to work with that energy. And also just to know that energy always changes and it's not always going to be positive all the time, but of course, like with the challenges, there's so much to learn and grow, and just that life is a sine curve and things go up and down, but it's all helpful and it's a blessing and it's a great teaching.
Okay, so we are moving into New Year's Eve is the 24th and day is the 25th. Is that right?
Yeah, so the Chinese New Year day is the 25th of January this year. It's very early.
It is really early. It always kind of catches me off guard when it hits in January.
Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing is actually the beginning of spring is usually on or around February 4th. So the actual transition in terms of when you determine your year animal is actually generally on or around the February 24th. And that's even with other astrologies like the numerology 9-star key. The shift always happens exactly on February 4th or on around February 4th. However, like with everything, like with nature, it's not like one day the energy just shifts. It's a gradual shift like we would see in the seasons.
Yeah, I know in my house and my Chinese friends are all like cleaning their houses and organizing right now. It's just like what is it, like the annual practice of like cleaning out and purifying before the new year hits, which I think is such a great ritual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it corresponds with our spring cleaning because it is actually the first day. It's the first day of spring on around February 4th, which it may not feel like spring, but it means energetically the spring is coming.
Mm-hmm. The seeds are waking up.
Yeah. Well, there's actually a Feng Shui adjustment that we do for the new year that we recommend. And part of it is like a way to clear out the house. I remember when we were talking the other day, you were saying that there's a really extreme Japanese version where you take all your furniture out of your house.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But I'll like later in this podcast, I'll explain a few ways that you can invite the energy of the new year with Feng Shui cures.
Awesome. Okay. Well, how do you want to get into it? Do you have anything that you want to say about rat year as a whole, or do you prefer to dive right into the individual signs and talk more specifically about the animals?
I think we should talk about the rat year as a whole, the metal rat year actually, because it says a lot. And then I was thinking we could first talk about the rat year and metal energy and what that represents. That affects everybody, and we'll start general. And then I can suggest some feng shui cures for everybody. And then we can go really top line on each animal and just talk a little bit about how the compatibility works for you this year.
Awesome.
Okay.
So tell us about metal rat year.
Okay. So there's actually 12 animals. And like I said before, they're all energies. And the energies were identified first, and then the animal names came later. So the interesting thing is that we're in the rat year, and the rat is actually the first animal in the cycle. So before the Chinese came up with the animal designations, this first year was represented by a character that meant baby. So it's indicating the beginning of something new, which I think for most of us, when I talk to people, I think everyone had a really challenging year last year. And I think just because the state of things in the world has been very challenging. And an interesting thing also about this Chinese system, the Asian system, is that it's based on Jupiter, because Jupiter circles one time every 12 years. So it's a 12-year cycle. And then there's 5 elements. So that gives us a 60-year cycle. So actually, if you're interested, all of you could actually Google or search and consider what happened in 1960, because that says a lot about, that was the last white metal rat year, and what that tells us about the energy now. And then plus we have this nuance of it being the first animal in the 12-year cycle. So I looked up what happened in 1960, and just some top line things is the U.S. announced that they were going to send troops to Vietnam in 1960. JFK was voted into office in 1960. The Civil Rights Act of 1960 was created to prevent discrimination, to prevent obstruction of voter registration, which is also happening now. And it was also called the Year of Africa in 1960 because 17 African nations gained independence. So there was a lot of upheaval, racial upheaval, and I think we see a lot of that happening now. So it's interesting to see how these cycles manifest. And then if you want to look, also 12 years ago, it was a rat year. So you can see what happened to you in 2008, or look, back 24 years and further, depending how old you are, and see what happened, because it could tell you a little bit personally about how you work with the rat. So you can do your own little bit of research. So we're just coming away from the pig year. So the pig is really more about kindness and mellowness and comfortability. It's a very diplomatic animal. And now we're moving into the rat year, which is the first. So rats are super fast. They're like survivors. Katie, have you seen, I don't know if people outside of New York get these, but I've received many little YouTube videos about the rat in the subway carrying the big pizza, or an ice cream cone. So they show a rat, and it's dragging a whole piece of pizza all the way to upstairs. They're survivors. So this is kind of the energy that we're working with. And if you're familiar with Ganesha is a Hindu god, and he is the remover of obstacles. But you know his vehicle, right?
No, I mean the elephant.
Yeah, the elephant. But he actually rides on rats.
Oh, that's right. Like a mongoose or something. Mongoose.
Rat. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Rat.
So Ganesha can move through obstacles and cut through obstacles because he's riding on a rat. So rats have this energy of getting things done, surviving. They're very resourceful, very practical, and they're planning ahead, and they're getting things done. And there's also that phrase pack rat. Or they're also about protection and safety in numbers and groups.
Every rat I know is a pack rat.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So that's kind of the energy we're coming into. And one thing to consider is if, in general, like if you're not seeing things change, if you're working on manifesting things and the universe is blocking you, what would a rat do? A rat would find a way around it. Or like I just can visualize like a rat and like because my little chihuahua kind of looks like a rat. And you can visualize they're sniffing, right? The nose is sniffing and like the whiskers are detecting. So they also stop and they pay attention and they listen for feedback and they sense the environment. And that gives them the ability and the knowledge and the messages from their environment to know what to do next. So they'll stop and slow down. And it's not like a slow, like being really slow, like taking a long, like it's not about how the clock ticks, that kind of slow. It's just about time slowing down and really checking in with what's happening around you so you know whether you should move forward or whether you should lay low. So that's the kind of energy we're coming into. And then there's also the aspect of the metal element. So traditionally, the metal rat brings in a good harvest. And the metal element is about decisions, completion, wealth. Like in the Feng Shui Bagua map, the two areas of the Feng Shui map that relate to metal are completion and children, called Dui, and Chen, which is heaven, helpful people, travel. And the symbol for metal in Chinese is represented by the symbol for gold. So it's also relating to wealth and currency. So it's also a year about getting things done, but it's not necessarily about being speedy, right? And you want to be joyful while you're doing it because metal is related to joy. So there's two different types of metal. So there's yin metal and yang metal. So yin metal is like a singing bowl, right? Made of metal. Like it's been shaped into something, or beautiful jewelry. Yang metal is like more rough, like ore from the earth, or it could be sharp like a knife or sword. It can cut through. So again, like metal is about making decisions, about moving swiftly, smoothly, and it's also related to the mouth. So there may be something to work with communication and helpful people. Like, do you need more support in your life, and can you ask for it? Yeah.
Sounds like a lot to work with.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
It's very exciting. I'm super excited for this year. It makes me energized and inspired.
I know. I think it's going to be really great, especially because I'm a dragon too. So it's good for the dragons because it was much more challenging in the year of the pig. But I think it gives me a sense of a good sense of movement and shift and new beginnings for us as a worldwide population, really starting to rethink how we move forward because we've had so much to think about and so much to reconsider.
So when you describe all the aspects of the rat, so that's like in one way that's just describing all of the rats of the world, but it's also you're saying all of those characteristics are characteristics or qualities that we can employ or double down on within ourselves, no matter what animal we are, to support ourselves this year.
Yes, because that's the energy of the year. So the rat describes the energy of the year. It can also, I'll also talk about like you specifically, but on a larger level, like on a universal level, that's the energy of the time that we're going through in 2020.
Okay.
So some Feng Shui cures that are great to work with in the new year is to clear out your house. So not like taking the furniture out, which you can do.
In New York, put it outside on the sidewalk and then it'll be gone.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Well, first I have to get in the elevator.
Right.
So
you're just really, but you're really just like, even just organization, right? Tidying up.
Yes. Well, actually, no, there's a specific technique. So it's best to do this on Lunar New Year. If you can do it on Lunar New Year between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. So between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. is actually the rat hours. But it's also the rat hours is 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. So you could do it during the rat hour, or you could do it between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., which is the most yang hours of the day. But what you do is actually you just open all your windows and doors to the outside, and you let the chi, which is the life force energy of your home. Well, you can also do this for your work too. Open all the windows and doors and open them for a minimum of 9 minutes. And 9 is the most auspicious number in Feng Shui. So just open everything and let everything air out and bring in fresh energy. And then after you do that, or while the doors are open, you can do a space clearing. So I think like your smoke offering, would that work for this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the LOTUSWEI smoke offering would be great. Or you can, if you have Palo Santo or some other, or sage or some other kind of smudge technique that you prefer, you can do something like that.
Spritz around your house with flower essences,
Mhm.
toss rose water.
Yes. And in Feng Shui, we also use orange a lot. So you can use orange essential oil, make it your own mist. Because oranges actually represent life-affirming yang energy. So it's inviting new energy, it transforms the space and uplifts the space. And oranges in China and in Asian cultures represents wealth and abundance because they actually like look like coins, the shape and the color, gold coins. And that's another thing that you could do to invite in abundance is to bring in 9 fresh oranges in a bowl into your home. So it's inviting abundance. And yes, you can eat them. And there's 2 more things that you could do for Feng Shui cures. You can move 27 things around in your home within 3 days or as soon as possible, like, whatever you can do to get the chi moving in your home. So it can be like moving your desk to another side of the room, or it could just be as simple as you have a lamp and just turning it a few degrees. It's about offering some energy, some intention, some thought, bringing some energy to areas that might be ignored in your home or objects. It's able to kind of unstick any stuck energy.
And you're recommending that before New Year or after, or like during?
Ideally, it's great if you could do all of this on Lunar New Year Day. But within 3 days is the most ideal. But if you're listening to this podcast way later, just do it as soon as possible. And then the last thing is every year there's the energy of the year. So this year is the rat. A lot of people think, oh, it's the rat year, so I should carry a rat image around with me or put rat images around my home, and that will be super auspicious. But in the Feng Shui that I practice, you actually carry the year animal's best friend, because the idea is that you carry around a realistic 3D, 3-dimensional representation of the year animal's best friend. So then the year animal may be offended by you or want to play games with you or whatever, but then it sees its best friend and it's so enamored by its best friend that the year god leaves you alone. So it's an auspicious charm to carry with you. So you can get like a 3D representation of an ox or a cow. And it doesn't have to be big. Like on my website, I just sell these little small keychains because I'm always trying to think about like, how do you make it easy so people do it, right? Because we're really inundated with so much stuff nowadays. So if you have a keychain, you always have, hopefully you always have your keys with you. I try to always have my keys with me. And so then you're always protected with this little charm. And I think it's a very cute reminder. And you've been carrying yours, right?
Yeah, like I texted you, I think somewhere around the time that you sent new ones. I was out of the office, but mine just sort of organically fell off. So now I have the next one on my keychain. A little cow on there. It's so cute.
Yes. Yeah. You texted me and you were telling me the tiger fell off like the day.
Yeah, it just fell off by itself. It was so bizarre. And it had been on there for a whole year.
Mm.
And did you choose the colors arbitrarily or
No, I think I picked it for you. I mean, I didn't think like about it very long. I think I made a quick decision, but I was like, oh, I think Katie might need green and Claire might need this and Taylor might need this. Just real quick decisions. Yeah. And with Feng Shui cures, it's interesting so that yours broke the day that you got the new one. So sometimes they break or a Feng Shui adjustment falls or breaks or something because it's actually doing some work for you. So tends to fall apart when maybe it's interacted with some negative energy and it's done some protection.
Yeah, that's like they always say, like in Tibetan Buddhism, that if your mala like explodes or breaks, it's actually like a really good sign.
Yeah, actually, I heard that too because I had just finished making a few months ago this moonstone mandala, or not mandala, mala, and I wore it once and I looked down and one of the beads had broken. I was shocked and I was so sad because I spent so much time on it. But I also read that you're not supposed to, well, it's good not to work with it anymore, to let it go. Do you still work with them once they break or you get it repaired?
Yeah, I mean, the kind of mala I'm thinking of is the one you'd use every day with your practice. So you just restring it.
Yeah.
But probably depends. I've seen actually some of my friends, once it broke, I don't see them using it anymore. And others I see them, them being restrung. So maybe it depends.
Yeah, because I was using mine for white Tara practice. And my friend who's a Kundalini yoga teacher, she also she has the same birthday as me. And she actually had her mala break the same day that I found out mine broke. And she said in Kundalini yoga, you actually need to bury it or not use it for the same practice anymore. I don't know. I guess it depends. Okay, are we ready to go through each animal? Okay. And then do you want to, after I go through each animal, you want to give a suggestion on a flower elixir?
Yeah, we have 12 main blends. So I've paired them up. We can sort of, I'll take a stab at it.
Okay, that's good because I think I have almost all of them, so I can I'll know what to use for my animal. Okay, so I'll just go over a top line review of all the animals. And one thing to always remember, even though I say this, people start to get worried. And well, one, they find out what their animal is and they decide they don't like their animal. They're like, oh, I'm a sheep. I don't want to be a sheep. Or I'm a pig. I don't want to be a pig. So just to know that all of your animals, or all the animals, there's no good or bad and there's no better or worse. And there's different aspects to each. And then remember, there's 4 animals in your chart. And also don't take this as a fear-based approach to things, because if you're going to have a challenging year, don't freak out, because when you have the greatest challenges, you have the greatest opportunities for reward. The more risk that you take, the more you can grow. So it's really a wonderful opportunity. So remember that. Don't freak out if it's a challenging year for you. It's a positive thing. So I always try to remind everyone of that. And I'll also give the years for people. I think that'll be helpful.
Sure.
Okay. But if your birthday is between January 1st and February 4th, you want to use the animal sign of the preceding year. And if you are born on February 4th, maybe you want to double check somewhere online to look at your natal chart, because it shifts a day or two every year. So, and also the time. So you're really on the cusp there. Okay. So we'll start with the rat. So the rat, again, is really resourceful. So the story goes that there was an emperor or empress. Let's say there was an empress in China, and she was working out how to order the Chinese animals for the zodiac. And so she invited all the animals in the country to participate in a race, the Great Race. Do you know the story?
No.
Okay. So there was a great race. And so all the animals that wanted to participate, they could. And then the order of how they came in would determine the order of the animals in the zodiac. So the rat, super resourceful, but small little guy, right? He really wanted to win. So what did he do? He went to his best friend, the ox, and he told the ox about the race. There's this race happening. There's a great race. I think we can win this together if we team up. And so the ox was really happy to support his best friend. So the ox said, come on up, climb up, and we'll do this race. So the ox and the rat together entered the race. They traveled over a lot of land, through rivers, up mountains, and then they were coming in first place. So right before they reached the finish line, the rat jumps off the ox and comes in first. So that's how the rat became first and the ox came in second. But the ox is really happy to do this for his best friend, the rat. So we'll talk about the ox in a second. So this is kind of the quality of the rat. So typically you might think that since this is the rat year and you're a rat, this is really good for you. And oh, by the way, the years for the rat are 1924, 1936, 1948, 1960, 1972, 1984, 1996, and 2008. So yeah, so you might think this is my year, but actually it's going to be a challenging year for you if you're a rat, because in the Chinese system or in the system, you're insulting the year's energy, the year's general. So it's a challenging year for you. And so it's really important that you have like a 3-dimensional ox with you for extra support. And what you can do is be sure to plant a lot of seeds and research your next move and play to all your strengths this year. And just know it's going to be a challenging year, and take a little bit more time, pay more attention. Like you remember we had that image of the rat sensing what's happening. Pay more attention to stop, perceive what's going around you in your environment before you take the next step forward. Do you want
me to make a flower essence recommendation?
Yeah. Should we do that, or do you want to do it at the end?
Yeah, we could do it.
Okay.
So the one that I would choose for rat would be Quiet Mind. And that has flowers like Bird of Paradise, which gets you out of your head into your heart, and Passion Flower, which is like having a heightened nervous system, but also being able to, like you said, stop and relax and detect before you operate. So you're not moving too quickly. Typically, people who are drawn to that blend of flower essences are usually speaking and moving very quickly and can benefit by just slowing down a teeny tiny bit.
Oh, that's great. I think that's great because rats sometimes can also go into survival mode. And I think that's a great one. Okay, so ox. So I talked about ox. So oxes are 1925, 1937, 1949, 1961, 1973, 1985, 1997, and 2009. So ox is the best friend of the rat, like the story I just told you. So oxen are also ox and cow are the same. So they're really steady. They're hardworking. They are very reliable. The one thing about the ox is that they can be very patient and hardworking, but sometimes they can become resentful if they're not coming from the right place and they're not taking care of themselves, and they're putting other people too much, if they're taking care of other people too much, not themselves. But, we think about oxen, they carry heavy loads and they have their yokes. So one thing that you can do if you're born in the year of the ox this year is to know that one, it's a good year for you because you are compatible with the rat, because you're best friends. So it's a really auspicious year for you. Take advantage of that and learn a little bit more about how to become more like the rat. How can you learn to open up to your resources? If you have an opportunity, take advantage of it and take steps to grow and learn from that energy of paying attention to what's around you, doing something a little bit more for yourself.
I love it. Okay, so I chose Full Bloom, which is about blooming into your full potential. It's also about collaboration. So that fits in with like asking for support and working with others, making sure you're not the only one carrying the load. But it also boosts a great determination and being able to find new strengths and talents that are hidden within yourself.
That's perfect. Okay, Tiger. Tiger is 1914, 1926, 1938, 1950, 1962, 1974, 1986, 1998, and 2010. So tigers are very dynamic. They're very self-reliant and they're honorable. They are passionate and they're protective. Like you think about the tiger mom taking care of her cubs, right? So tigers had a really good year last year because they are actually best friends with the pig. So last year was really good. This year is more neutral. So it's going to be a little bit slower than it was last year. And it's important to stay aware and review all your opportunities. But know that you're coming off probably like a really positive year to one that's going to be more neutral, and you have to just be a little bit more sensitive to everything.
So for Tiger, I chose Truth Teller, which is about
actually protecting others, advocating for others, but it's heavy also on the communication side, being able to ask for what you want and communicate really effectively.
Yeah, that's good because we have the metal year, which governs the mouth. Okay, rabbit. Rabbit is 1927, 1939, 1951, 1963, 1975, 1987, 1999, and 2011. So rabbits are very sensitive animals. I like to say that when you have rabbit in your chart or your year, you don't understand how anyone could be malicious or mean or hurt other people. So they're very graceful and sociable and sensitive. There's even a story that I learned recently that I think it's a Buddhist story that in India, there was a rabbit that came across a hungry beggar a hungry beggar. And the rabbit sacrificed itself to be food for this hungry beggar. So it turned out that the beggar was a monk, and then the gods saw how kind and selfless this rabbit was. So they made the rabbit into a sacred animal and then put the rabbit on the moon. And then the Japanese turned it into actually this, there's a rabbit on the moon. There's a lot of iconography about rabbits and moons.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And so the rabbit sits on the moon, and the rabbit actually is pounding mochi cakes on the moon to celebrate Chinese New Year. So, but the rabbit is this kind of energy, very selfless, very kind. So rabbits are also in a neutral year, but they have a little bit of a different energy than the rat. So rabbits are a little bit more cautious. And so it's going to be a little bit of a quicker energy and busier energy than you're used to.
Perfect.
So, and also rabbits is in harmony with pigs. So your peaceful year last year, like the peaceful, comfy year that you may have had last year, is going to shift to being quicker and busier, but it's going to bring good and positive shifts and new opportunities.
Wonderful. Okay. So I picked inspired action. So that's going to like speed them up a little bit so that you can like utilize your strength of being intuitive and in tune, but also like get it done, like get motivated, get inspired, get creative, and go a little bit faster than usual.
That's a good one. Okay, dragon. Dragon's my favorite because I'm dragon. Dragon is 1928, 1940, 1952, 1964, 1976, 1988, and 2000. So dragons are energetic. They're very direct. They're very humble. No, just kidding. Actually, they are. So like the story goes that the reason why, you think the dragon could have come in first place, but the dragon was too busy helping the rabbit across the river. And then after the dragon helped, like the dragon, I think, blew the wind so that there could be a little log that the rabbit could jump on to cross the river. Then meanwhile, like as the rabbit is going across the river, the dragon went to go help a village in drought and then came back to the race. So this is the dragon. So they also like fly through life with purpose. And they had a more challenging year last year. So actually the dragon, rat, and monkey form a harmony. They form a triad. They have an affinity. So it's actually a very good supportive year for the dragon. So it's a good time for you to really leverage your resources, execute your plans, and to learn from your friends, like the support of your friends, the rat energy.
Okay, so for dragon, I chose wild abundance, which has a lot to do with attracting money and prosperity. It's also about beauty, synchronicity, being in tune with your senses, and being sort of wildly uninhibited.
I like that. So snake is 1929, 1941, 1953, 1965, 1977, 1989, 2001, and 2013. So snakes are similar to the rat energy, that they know how to maneuver through situations. Like snakes can move through obstacles and they never let an opportunity slip by, but they slide through life with a lot of wisdom and grace. So snake is revered in a lot of Asian cultures, right? And snakes are pretty good with rats because they have similar approaches to life and they can appreciate each other's intellect and the sharpness. So overall, the energy will be good for the snake. And if you can combine your snake wisdom with the resourcefulness of the rat, you can be bold and really make a lot out of 2020.
Okay, so for snake, I chose game changer, which is about thinking outside the box, which could be another way of like thinking about wisdom and tapping into your own wisdom, doing things in a different way, in a unique way that comes from the inside, the inner wisdom versus what you think or what others are doing.
Okay, horse. So horses are 1918, 1930, 1948, 1954, 1966, 1978, 1990, and 2002. So horses are also hardworking, like the ox. They're strong, they're active, they're always looking for an adventure, and they're actually in conflict with the rat. It's going to be a challenging year for you. The energy is not going to be as smooth as you want it to be because horses are always on the go and rats are more calculating. And a horse personality is not used to doing that. The horse just wants to be free and gallop. Like if you think of taming a wild horse. So this year you might have to be tamed a little bit and work with an energy that you're not comfortable with. So it's totally okay to lay low this year because laying low, you're not creating new karmas. Just work on yourself, lay low, review, plan. And it's a great time actually to review your potential opportunities, decide what you want to do in the future. Because remember, with the greatest challenge, this is going to be your most challenging year. A lot of wonderful things can arise.
Cool. So for horse, I had chosen infinite love, which is really nice because if it's a conflict year, it really is going to help the horses soften. So instead of resorting to anger or frustration or irritation, really just like sinking into more tenderness and self-kindness and forgiveness.
Yes, I think that's great. Ram, 1919, 1931, 1948, 1955, 1967, 1979, 1991, and 2003. So Rams are gentle and kind. They're very determined. They're also patient. So Ram is also sheep. And they had a good ram, sheep, or goat. They had a great year last year because they're in harmony and have an affinity with the pig. So this year's not bad. It's just more neutral. So not necessarily super auspicious. So what you can do if you're born in the ram year is to see the benefits of becoming more organized like a rat and to be more clever about things and not to be scared to put yourself out there and jump on new opportunities and really just go at it like a rat would. Like, don't be scared to carry a pizza slice that's 5 times the size of you over a step.
Okay. I chose joy juice. So there's a lot of humor and laughter, just like bringing in that joyful element. But also there's a flower in there for just keeping things really simple. Like keep it simple. Don't make it complicated.
That's great. Okay. Monkey. Monkey is 1920, 1932, 1944, 1956, 1968, 1980, 1992, and 2004. So monkeys also have a similar energy to the rat. Well, one is that they're in affinity, they're in harmony with the rat. So again, rat, monkey, and dragon form the 3 harmonies of water in the Chinese system. So it's a really great year for you, auspicious year for any monkeys. But they also have a similar energy to the rat, that they're rat and snake, that they're very able to maneuver swiftly as needed in a situation. And monkeys are very clever, just like the rat. Like rats are very revered in Asian culture because they're really smart. So monkeys are also smart. They're curious. Monkeys can also be very charming. So since it's a really great year for you and you're in harmony with the rat, it's really going to feel very supportive for you, and use your intellect and your cleverness and your ways of thinking outside of the box to swing through life and to channel your energy for whatever success that you want to achieve. So really set your sights on what it is that you want to work on.
Okay, so I chose boundless wisdom as something that monkeys could work with overall, as the general support over the year for being flexible. So like letting go of things that are maybe outdated ideas and just really going after the biggest opportunities and being aware of divine timing and making time to meditate.
Yeah, this is because this is a really great year for the monkey. So take advantage of it. Okay, the rooster is 1921, 1933, 1945, 1957, 1969, 1981, 1993, and 2005. So roosters they like to strut their stuff. They like to show off their feathers. They like to wake everyone up early in the morning.
They're kind of like a boss, right? Like,
yeah. Well, you don't want to you don't want two roosters together because there'll be a fight. So this is the energy of the rooster. But I love roosters like it all because roosters. Yeah, rooster and dragon get along really well. And usually I can tell if someone's a rooster. I'm like, oh, that's why you're like that. So anyway, so roosters have a neutral relationship with the rats. So in many ways, the roosters will feel really at home because rats and roosters also pay attention to details, and the roosters like it a little bit faster. So it's a good year to just pay attention to the details and know that it's a year to, also because I think roosters like to make a lot of noise, and it's a metal year where it's very much focused on the mouth and communication. So maybe roosters could stand to stop and think more before they say something to this year because it's a metal year.
Interesting. Okay. So what I had chosen was fierce compassion. So bringing in more gentleness and compassion, and also letting go of struggle. So letting go of things needing to be hard and just letting it be smooth and easy.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Okay. Dog is 1922, 1934, 1946, 1958, 1970, 1982, 1994, 2006, and 2018. So dogs are very loyal and they're very protective. They don't necessarily like to lead. They want someone to lead them. And they're neutral with the rat. So it's not necessarily a bad or good year for you. So you just want to go with the flow and learn from the energy of the rat. The rat is also kind of a pack animal, right? So you have a group of people around you. So surround yourself with helpful people and just take advantage of new opportunities and opening yourself up to looking at new ways to do things and focus on that rather than worrying about things being risky.
It shows radiant energy, so bringing in more vitality for health, circulation, protection, and not taking on other stress.
That's good, especially when you're in a group. It's easy to do that. Okay, pig. Pig is 1923, 1935, 1947, 1959, 1971, 1983, 1995, 2007, and 2018. So we're just coming out of the pig year. And so because it was your year, if you're a pig, it was actually a challenging year for you. So this year will be a little bit of a relief from last year because pig had its own year. So pigs tend to be very comfortable, very kind, very diplomatic. There's actually a lot of politicians that are pig. So they're very diplomatic, they're homebound, and, they're the last ones. So they're not in a rush to do anything. They just want to be comfy, enjoy life. So this year's you're in a neutral relationship to the rat. So it's important to just stay focused and keep your eye on the prize. And it's a good year to just watch and learn and keep your eyes open so you can take advantage of any opportunities. And I guess also because the rat's slightly faster than the pig. So, the rat came in first and the pig came in last. So you could stand to probably jump on opportunities a little bit quicker than you would have in the past.
Yeah, I would recommend inner peace. And that might be nice after having a really rough year, just to know that you're totally supported and you can finally take a breath and sink into a more peaceful year.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, pigs, it's over. It's getting better.
Oh, that's so fun. Thank you, Anjie.
You're welcome.
Anything else that you recommend or any last words of wisdom?
I think that, again, it's really important not to see any challenges from a fear-based perspective and not to panic that challenges are positive. And I think for everyone, it's if you're curious more about this, definitely look up a 4 pillars or Batsa consultant and look up your natal chart. It can go more in depth because this is really just scratching the surface. It's just like looking at your sun sign only. But I think it's a great place to start and to find opportunities to work with the energy that we're moving into and having that benefit you.
Awesome. I love the rituals that you gave for New Year. And then I would just add too that like it's not to make you feel superstitious. It's just like probably more the intention around things. I bet Angie would agree that like if you don't have access to 9 oranges, you can probably offer some orange flowers or any color flowers. And it's more like the intention around it and like what's in your heart and what's motivating you, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's about having this intention to mark a time of new beginning.
Love it. Thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to The Flower Lounge. I'm Katie Hess, and we'll be releasing a new podcast every Wednesday. If you like what you heard or you know someone who might be touched by our conversation, share it with them. And don't forget to subscribe. To find out what your favorite flowers mean about you, take the quiz at LOTUSWEI.com.